Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how to use the new Arks of Omen Detachment. I know a lot of you are veterans of this game and probably know how to do that already, but for those of you who are beginners and don't really know or understand the whole detachment thing and mechanic and what that even is, this is a video for you. So firstly, what a detachment even is. Basically, detachments are building blocks for your battle-forged army. Battle-forged means a legal army that can use all the rules that you have in your codex. You never play with a not battle-forged army because it's just an abomination and no one does that, and you cannot play that in a tournament, and you should not play that even with your friends, because all of the rules that your codex has, they are written for the battle forged use. So a battle forged army is the one that has all of their units inside detachments. In our case now, with the newest updates for the rules, which are called Arks of Omen, this is what we have now, the new matched play so-called rules. And matched play means basically the most updated, the most balanced, quote-unquote, rules that we have access to, the ones that you would use if you were to go to a tournament. So the latest and greatest, so to speak. So if you are going to play matched play, that's what you need, and you need a detachment. And nowadays you can only use the Arks of Omen Detachment. Plus, you can run a little patrol or a super heavy auxiliary for your allies, but we'll discuss that a bit later in this video. So, a detachment is sort of a mold that you fill with units to keep everything organized, like a box with the pre-cut shapes for all of your models that you bring with yourself to a club. That is what a detachment is. It serves a balancing function, first of all, because we don't want to play with gamey and one-sided armies where there are 50 HQs and nothing else. That doesn't sound right, even for something like Thousand Suns. And also it serves an organizing function so that everything is neatly compacted into its proper space. To have a legal battle-forged army, you need at least one valid detachment in it, and all of your units should be in the detachments, or in this case. Usually you could have had up to 3 detachments in your Strike Force games, but now, as I already said, you get 1 Arks of Omen detachment and 1 Allied Patrol / Super Heavy Auxiliary detachment. Every detachment has a minimum units required criteria, which basically means that you cannot use that detachment unless you have at least that in it. And in the case of Arks of Omen Detachment, that minimum requirement is 1 HQ and 3 choices of either troops or elites or fast attack or heavy support or Lord of War choices. And in case you're playing knights, you can skip the HQ part, you can just have Lords of War. But we are talking about the regular style army, so in those cases we need 1 HQ and 3 of either of these choices. They are called your compulsory choices, and that's what you would see in, for example, Battlescribe. If you were to download Battlescribe with the newest rules now and went to build a detachment, chosen the Arks of Omen Detachment, one of the things you could select at the top of the page where you choose your chapter and all that stuff is your compulsory slot. And until you select that slot, you will be basically having a warning that something is wrong in your force, in your roster. After you fulfilled the criteria, say you have built an army where you have 1 HQ and 3 elite choices, then you can proceed, you skip all the other compulsory ones, so you cannot start using them as well. Even though they're compulsory, they're not compulsory anymore after you have already fulfilled one of them completely. So they just don't exist for you anymore, and you go down, as you can see on the picture here, you go down into the gray area where all the optional things are, and you can fill them out as much or as little as you want to. So you can bring 3 more HQs, so 4 in total. You can bring 9 more troops choices, in addition to your 3 if you have chosen them as your compulsories. So you can have as many troops choices as you want to. Not sure why you would want to have that, so many, but maybe you're playing Harlequins or something. So all the gray ones are your optional choices, and are basically there to give you freedom of creative flow. It's actually a very, very good system. It's much easier than it used to be, because before we had to use the inflexible battalion, which made us take 2 HQs minimum, so we could not have an army with just 1, but we also could not have more than 3. So if you really wanted to run a lot of HQs, you couldn't. If you really wanted to run just 1 HQ, you couldn't. So very, very rigid system. And you also had to have 3 troops. Nowadays, we don't have to have 3 troops. We don't have to have any troops whatsoever. We can just run elites, heavy support, fast attack, and so on, which is great, I think. What is an allied patrol or a super heavy auxiliary? So most of your stuff will now be put into the Arks of Omen Detachment. But say you want to run an allied faction. So, for example, if you want to run your Tzeentch demons with your Thousand Sons, or your Nurgle demons with your Death Guard. So if you want to do that, then the allied, the Battle Brothers rule and the allied patrol / super heavy auxiliary is going to come into play. Why am I saying / is because the patrol does not have, unlike the Arks of Omen Detachment new thing, which has Lords of War in it. Before, all the Lords of War choices were basically in the special detachments, like the Super Heavy Auxiliary and the Super Heavy Detachment, or the just Auxiliary one. I'm not sure, I don't remember. So in any case, there was no the Lord of War choice in the regular ones, the patrol, the battalion, the brigade. So what you do is basically you fill out your Arks of Omen as usual, and then you consult a table of all the factions that are listed as Battle Brothers. And if your combination happens to be one of the ones that are listed there, you can, for free, have a patrol or super heavy auxiliary, depending on which type of a unit you want to have, and you can add that to your army. Obviously, you still have to keep the army under whatever the points limit you've chosen for your game. So if it's 2,000 points, the total should be 2,000 points. But other than that, you're pretty much good to go. Remember, though, that some rules are only available to the clean, pure armies, the ones that only have one faction in them and one faction only. There are exceptions to that, so like the Tzeentch and Thousand Sons or Death Guard and Nurgle, the Chaos Demons Codex has a special Demonic Allies, I think it's called, rule that allows you to have demons in your force, in your army, but not lose any other rules, which is good. I think that is a lore-friendly solution. But for things like an Imperium detachment that adds a Votan patrol to it, there is no such rule, or at least I'm not aware of such a rule. So it means that you will probably lose your special things like your super doctrine, your combat doctrine. So a lot of stuff is going to be lost in order for you to get those things into your army. So what is a patrol? Patrol is basically the smallest detachment that we previously had access to, so it's just 1 HQ and 1 troops choice, the mandatory ones. And after that, you can have up to 2 more troops choices, so 3 in total, 2 elites, 2 fast attacks, 2 heavy supports, 2 flyers. A super heavy auxiliary detachment consists of a single Lord of War choice, nothing else. And none of them would cost you any command points, which is a big difference compared to what we used to have. So you could like have an extra faction in another detachment, but you had to pay command points and everything was difficult. Now everything is streamlined and I like it. That's a good change in my opinion. And for things like the Thousand Sons and Death Guard and Emperor's Children and Slanesh, Disciples of Be'lakor and House Korvax, Chaos Knights, that's a good change, and I'm glad that we have that option. I'm in general against souping, but organized soup like that is fine. And here is an example of an Arks of Omen detachment and how you can use it. This is an Necron's force that I personally am planning to use in one of our next spell reports, or someone else is going to play this army against me. And here is what we have. So what do we have here? It's a compulsory choice of an HQ, which is Enrique the Traveler. That's why it's in orange here. And we have one Chronomancer, who is an optional choice of an HQ. But I wanted to have him, so here it is. Next, we have a compulsory choice of elites, which, as you can see, we have 4 of them in there. And you might ask, why do we have 4 if we only need 3? Well, because I wanted to have more. I don't have to, but I wanted to have, so that's why. And I could have had 2 more elites choices here, plus 3 more choices which are character elites, like an apothecary or just judiciary. So these things are also very good now, because you get extra 3 slots for your character elite choices, which previously were a big pain, because if you wanted to run, say, like 2 Vexils Praetors in your Adeptus Custodes detachment, you had to sacrifice so much real estate to just get these 2 guys in there. And the same problem was with HQs. Unfortunately, with HQs, we still have quite a constraint, but we at least have 4 instead of 3. With elites, we now have a bunch of space, and it's unlikely that you will ever run out of space, especially considering that some armies like Genestealer Cults already have rules in place that help you to have enough space to have all those characters. So we have 4 elites choices here, and after that, in blue, we see all the absolutely optional choices. So we could have had these or not. It doesn't matter. The detachment is already valid and legal and fine to use. So, fast attack, Canoptic Scarab Swarms, another Canoptic Scarab Swarms, Canoptic Wraiths. We're not here to discuss Necrons, we're here to discuss the detachment. So, and at the end we have a Lord of War choice, again an optional one, and the total is 2,000 points. So that's an example of how you can use an Arks of Omen Detachment, how flexible it is. So we don't have any troops here. That would be, previously it would look almost like a Vanguard detachment, but for Vanguard detachment I would have to pay 3 command points to run the same thing. And I also would have to pay another command point to run a monolith in my army, which is crazy. And now I can have all that beautiful stuff here without any problems. Also, now when I think of it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that previously Monolith could not gain the benefits of the dynastic code because he was in the super heavy auxiliary detachment. But now, because the super heavy auxiliary detachment had a special rule that said that you're not getting any like chapter tactics and all that stuff if you are if the unit is a part of this detachment. But now when he is a part of the Arks of Omen detachment, I'm not sure that this is still the case. So the monolith can finally be benefiting from all the wonderful rules that we have with our dynasty. I hope at least that it is so, because monolith needs all the help that he can get. So that's it, guys. Let me know if you understand now how the Arks of Omen detachment works. If you have any other questions, I know I was a beginner myself and I had a lot of problems when I was first starting out. Warhammer is not a simple game, so if you have any other questions, always feel free to contact me. I will always answer in comments and I'm happy to help. So don't hesitate, ask me a question if you don't understand anything. But I hope this video was useful for you, and I'll see you next time.